The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom.
And Jack Baruzzini. Hey, Jack.
Hey, Dom.
And before we get into today's show, I want to tell you all about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy, which is The Secrets of Stargate, which is covering right now Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis, which I'm loving both. We're still in the good seasons of Stargate SG-1 for now. And then, just beginning with Stargate Atlantis. So definitely check that out wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Stargate. So I just want to start by letting folks know, acknowledging that we missed an episode last week. That was due to a personal problem. I had laryngitis last week, and it's very difficult to podcast with laryngitis. I could have signed the podcast. That would have been a new thing, but that wasn't going to work. So here we are. So
I wonder if there's an AI interpreter for sign language
that could do the audio. Yeah. Or I could just type it all out and have the AI voice read it. I wonder if there's I could do. Yes, there are AI models out there where you can make a copy of your voice and have it do it. They're not great yet, but I've heard people do me and Jimmy Aiken and yeah. So it's creepy, but. So let's start with some listener feedback. This is from a few weeks ago, and listener Bill sent in an email, and he said, hello all, I've heard from a few sources that the most common form of two-factor authentication, a code received via text message, is actually not a very secure method anymore. Or ever was, as my editorial comment. Why is that? It seems to me codes via email would be even less secure, and the authenticator apps won't be of much help if my phone's been lost or destroyed. What about the automated voice call that reads me a code? Similar problems as a text? Thanks, and I really enjoy all the shows SQPN puts out. I'll start by saying, yes, codes sent via email are even worse than the text messages. But do you guys have an answer for him on why texting is bad?
I wouldn't say bad. I would say not optimal. If you can go to an authenticator app, that's obviously the best route. Two-factor authentication is great. So just to get that out of the way, two-factor authentication is better than not two-factor authentication.
Whatever it is.
So whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's better than not. So that's I think the first part, but it's falling out of favor a little bit because of the ability to spoof phone numbers and to capture phone numbers as well. So especially with the rise of digital phone numbers and ownership of digital phones, you can. There are ways to manipulate the software into receiving or sending a text to the wrong spot and being kind of putting a man in the middle there. I will say I had a really interesting experience with one of my providers recently where I had to provide a two-factor authentication number. And the guy on the phone said, you're going to be receiving a code. And one of the things that they always say to you is never read the code off to anyone. Yes. And it was nice, though, because when it came through, it said, you are on the phone with this person. And it gave that person's name. And they require this code to proceed. And that was like, oh, OK, well, I can see that's like an authentication.
And he'd already given you his name.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, I already knew who I was talking to. And so everything was, kind of matched up there. So that was nice. But yeah, it's less secure than an app because an app runs on a code backend. So there's no way that you can, without knowing the code for the backend and without being able to write the time of your device, of your physical device, into the code, they won't be able to spoof the code that's appearing on your authenticator app.
Yeah, it's all about levels of security. So each level is more secure than it's not that none of them aren't secure. It's just that each level is more secure. I mean, your neighbor yelling it out the window to you across the street is probably the least secure. So don't do that. But it's layers, and the texting is lesser, like you said, because of the the phone spoofing. We talked last time about a story about a woman whose where her sister died, and scammers stole her phone. Her phone from like T-Mobile by impersonating her and having the phone number transferred, and that used that to access all her accounts. So that's why. Now, as far as what if my phone's lost or destroyed? So it depends on the type of two-factor authenticator app you use. So if you use like 1Password, which is what I use, and I think some of the others also have two-factor built in, that code generator is in the cloud. So you just re-download the app or access it via their website, and the code will still be in there. Now, some people again say that that's less secure than having an app that's only on your phone, and that's true. But again, it's all a balancing act, I think. So.
That's why it's important to have a recovery email set up with your email address.
Yes.
Like, if you don't have that and you lose your phone, like, I know that's an issue with Google accounts. I had my phone brick itself, and I had to do that whole process where I had to send the recovery email to my wife's email, which was my backup one. And then you have to wait 24 hours for them to get back to you and all that. But it's better than not having anything. And I guess I would say I would prefer, because I think the big stumbling block with a lot of people is they don't want to have to go through the process of using an authenticator app, because that can seem kind of overwhelming. So it's still better to have the text than to not have anything at all. Yes. And so I'm okay with it from that perspective.
Right. Have something. And then the voice call, I mean, that's, again, it's the same thing with the texting. I'd put it about the same level, because again, someone could clone your number or steal your number and have the calls go to them instead of, so a text and a voice call are about the same level of security, I think. So, I have to admit, when two-factor authentication was new, I accidentally deleted the Google Authenticator app off my phone early on. And wow. Now, it was early on, so we only had a few authenticator, passwords in there. So I had to go through a process with each of them to recover, with it, which was a bit of a hassle. But I use Authy as an app now, and they actually do backups. So they'll back up into the cloud your two-factor stuff. So that's good too. I run Authy and 1Password simultaneously because I don't want to lose either one.
I actually really like my two favorites are Steam and Discord, where there is a QR code that you scan with your device. So you have to have your device in hand. You scan the QR code, and that is what gives you the access to whatever you're trying to do. So if I'm trying to log into Steam from a new computer, it gives me a QR code. I scan it with my phone, and it goes into the Steam app and then verifies in the Steam app there. So it's a physical, that to me is the ideal kind of physical setup, because I have to be physically scanning the object with my phone.
That's essentially how passkeys work. Like I literally 20 minutes ago was setting up my going into my account on Lowe's.com. Time for more wood pellets for my pellet grill. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to set up a passkey?" I'm like, "Sure." I set up passkeys wherever I can, and it's just literally says, "Okay, scan this with your phone," and it opens up 1Password, sets up the passkey in 1Password, and Bob's your uncle. I'm there. So it's, passkeys are even better than the codes, because you never have to type a code in or copy a code. It's just authenticate with your face or your fingerprint, and you're in. So that's much better. So Bill, thanks for the feedback and our opportunity to talk once more about keeping yourself secure. Probably our number one mantra here at Secrets of Tech is keeping your things secure. So let's talk about our main topic, which came up when I saw this headline from romper.com, which is a fun name. It is, I'm trying to find the article here. Sorry, I lost it. But it's the couples who run their families like a corporation. And it's a story about how that these families and couples that they use Slack and shared Google Calendar. Sure, that's what a lot of people do. But then there are people who use because more and more couples are working from home, they start using the tools that they use at work to organize their workplace and the methods and processes to organize their family. So, using Discord or some of the other like PowerPoints. I don't know when you would use PowerPoint. I might use it next time I need to convince my wife to let me buy a new snowblower, or something along those lines. So using lots of different apps and technologies and techniques from work to help your home run more smoothly. Did you guys get a chance to look at the article itself and have any thoughts just in general on the idea?
The one thing I would say about the article is there is such a thing as over-organizing.
Yes.
And I noticed that there were several of the mentioned apps and things were like, okay, that's a little much.
Yeah, that's true.
I like the spirit of the idea in terms of it's good to be organized. It's good to have lists and plans and not just be flying by the seat of your pants. But honestly, my first reaction was I spend all day using these tools at work. The last thing I want to do is get home and use these tools again.
And that's a fair point is, sometimes you need more of a division between home and work. You need nobody wants the spouse who's a lawyer to come home and to, all right, we need to adjudicate these disputes within the family. And so we sit down and we have a hearing between the kids on whose Lego it is, maybe it's time to put away the lawyer hat today or, whatever it is. But yeah, I could see that, like maybe wanting to have more division and with that. And I appreciate the point about there's such thing as being there can be such a thing as being too organized, depending on the personality. Now there are some people who are like the type A, everything has to go in its slot, in its place, at all times. And hopefully they marry each other. And then you have other people who are a little more easygoing and, a little bit flying by the seat of their pants. And again, hopefully they marry each other. I think I'm kind of in the middle somewhere. I'm a bit of an organizer, mostly because I'm a very disorganized person by nature. So I need organizational tools to keep myself on track. And that's one thing that people always tell me when they say, you're so organized. I'm like, I have to be. Right. Whereas my wife is a little more freeform and she kind of relies on me and my organization stuff. So I could see that. I could definitely see that. I thought maybe in that spirit, we could share some of what we use in our own homes to, our families to organize and to run things, to keep things on track. And I'm sure listeners will recognize some of these. And we actually got a bunch of ideas from discussion on our Discord server at sqpn.com/Discord in our Secrets of Technology channel, where folks shared some of the ideas that they had or the things they do. I use the app AnyList for shopping lists. I have something like 30 different shared shopping lists. And some of them are very specialized, like stuff to get at the liquor store, stuff to get at the grocery store, stuff to get at CVS. And then I have two. One is Costco and the other one is all the sorts of things we buy at Costco. So it's more of a staging thing. Like these are all the possible things next time I go to Costco that I could get just to remind me. Cause I don't know if you go to Costco, Sam's Club or BJ's or any of those big warehouse clubs that can be overwhelming. And like, there's so much stuff and it's sometimes feels a little random, the stuff they choose to put on the shelves. So it helps me stay organized on what sorts of things I need to be looking for when I go, or do we need more of this as more that goes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what we use Google Keep for is we basically have like a running grocery list. And so that way throughout the day, like if we run out of a particular thing, my wife can just add it to the list and we have like weekly grocery list and we need to get this today on the way home from work list. And that's really helped rather than it cuts down on the number of superfluous trips you end up making because you actually know what you need and can keep that together. So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was for a while developing an Obsidian based recipe book for our house, and so all you had to do was, we're going to make this week, and then it would populate an ingredient list, and then people got frustrated with me in my house, so I stopped doing it.
Yeah, as you said, there's such a thing as being too organized. I guess, yeah. A man who with experience, by doing this, having a shopping list, I've managed to get, like, we do one weekly shopping trip. I do the family shopping, and I do one regular big grocery store trip. Every few weeks I go to Costco, and then every 2 days I go buy milk, because that's how much milk we drink in this family. So, and then that keeps the extraneous trips to the grocery store down some. Doesn't eliminate them entirely. That sometimes, I was saving that for the thing we're making on Thursday. Now I need to go get more of it. Yeah. That happens, but in general, it helps. I think everybody uses shared calendars now. I use Fantastical. One of the things I love about Fantastical, this is an app that's on the Mac and the iOS, is it has templates. So I have, like, the kids all take karate, and the karate lessons the schedule varies every month. So some months it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Some months it's, and it's different every week, even, because the teacher is a firefighter, and so his schedule varies. And, so the calendar comes at the beginning of the month, and so there's templates, and I can just say, I can click on a date and say, fill it with the karate, and it's always at the same time. So just boom, 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 and I can populate the calendar for the month in about 30 seconds.
Nice.
So that's one of the things I love about Fantastical. So I can use that. If you have any sort of thing that's very regular, you can do that with Fantastical. But shared calendars, I think everybody's now want to get shared calendars. That's pretty common. I used to use Evernote to store important documents that I scan or that I download. These days it's more downloading than scanning. But Evernote kind of went crazy and became super expensive something else than it was. So a couple of years ago, I switched to DevonThink, which is a Mac app, but it's basically a big storage box for things, kind of like Evernote was. That's at least how I use it. It's got some smarts in it. It doesn't work quite the same way. It's never been quite the same for me, but it's really good at finding things inside the database, and so it stores PDFs. The best part of it is everything is stored as a native file format. So if you drop a PDF in it, it stays a PDF. If you drop a text file in it, stays a text file. So that if you get rid of DevonThink, it's still all there in a file folder structure on your computer. So
that's good.
That's the nice thing with that.
Yeah, that's really nice.
I would say 1Password for storing sensitive documents like birth certificates, different things like that. 1Password is actually really good for that.
Yeah, that's true. I have I keep images of our driver's licenses, our social security cards, that sort of stuff in there. Probably should copy the birth certificates in there. That would be good too. But yeah, keeping those in 1Password behind a very secure encryption.
Yeah.
That's really good. You mentioned Obsidian, Thomas, and it's well known my love for Obsidian as well. I use it.
Yep.
I use it for work, and I've talked about it for work. But for home, my wife and I have a shared vault that we share. That's in iCloud. I keep it in iCloud that we access it. And some of the things that are in there is like camping and vacation planning ideas. Like every year gets its own document, and then I populate the document with our ideas, and then like we go camping a lot, so I look up where do we want to go. Let me find a whole bunch of campgrounds in that area, and just populate it with all the different information. It's just all text, and you can drop graphics and other stuff in there and keep tables. And it's really great. I keep all kinds of car maintenance. We have 2 cars, and each one has its own document, and things like what kind of battery goes in the key fob. That I put in there, just nice. Like basic little bits of stuff that you'd have to pull out a manual or Google it. I look for it once, and once I have it, I put it in there. Financial information. So I keep track of payments, health payments. Anytime I call a company that we do business with, like a utility or something, it gets a date and a note of what happened and who I talked to or whatever. Just so my thought is, if something happened, I do all the finances. if something happens to me, I want Melanie to be able to look at this and know what's been going on. Mm-hmm. And similarly, she does all the kids' medical stuff. We keep all the doctor's information, all of the current information about the kids in there. A few years ago, longtime listeners may remember I had a big house issue, and I documented everything in there, keeping track of the contractors, the insurance, the a running chronology of every interaction, the time I signed something, gave something to a person, on and on and on, all through that. And then I have just one document that is in case of emergency, which is basic. Something were to happen to me, where to go to get in, how to get into 1Password. Where to get, like, I have a couple of documents that we did an episode on, Tech Memento Mori, where I talked about like how to prepare for your death, so that the people who survive you are able to go on with running things. And one of those things was a spreadsheet that has all kinds of account numbers and that sort of stuff. And a link to that is in there. Plus things like emergency numbers. Or non-emergency numbers. What is the police non-emergency number in your town? Most people don't know that off the top of their head. That sort of stuff.
It's a good thing to have. Yep.
Yeah, I think that the emergency documents is something that people often overlook when they're doing these kind of things. Like you said, everyone uses a shared calendar, but we often forget that let's just put all the important stuff for contacting people in one place, and a digital place is a good place to back that up.
Yes. And the another important thing is make a note in your reminders, your task list, whatever, review it every 6 months or a year, because that stuff changes. I'm looking at it now going, oh yeah, we don't use them for fuel. Like we have a whole different HVAC system now. So I need to fix that. And that sort of stuff, like, oh yeah, but I get things like the appliance repairman in there, and the plumber, and the utility, the water utility, and the electric company, and all that sort of stuff. Have that you could call it almost like a family wiki,
right?
And this is the Bet wiki in my house, short for Bettinelli. So it was a bunch of other stuff. I don't want to belabor it, but just think of that sort of thing. And then the last thing I want to mention that we do is meal planning. And this is how the process goes in my house. Thursday, I do food shopping Friday mornings. So Thursday night, we sit down around the table, and as we're having dinner, I have the flyer for our grocery store for sales. And I open up the app to Paprika, which is my recipe app. And then we talk about what do we all want to have for dinner next week. Oh, I also have especially in the spring, summer, and fall, I have the weather app so that I know what the forecast is going to be, so I know when I can grill. And then I look at, so we discuss, what do we want to have for dinners? What do you name one dinner you want to have this week? We go around the table, and, sometimes like, I don't know. And then we have to look at, okay, well, on Tuesday we have Scouts. So that needs to be a quick and easy dinner. And, so we work on all that. I write that all down in drafts on my phone. That's the app on my phone. And then I have a template that I use, and it's, just plug it in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then once we fill that out, I use drafts. It's got automations built in to send that to Apple Notes. And then from Apple Notes, it's a shared Apple Note with Melanie because she doesn't use drafts. And then it sends it to Messages to let her know that it's in there. And then I also go into Paprika, which is my recipe app, and that has a meal planning calendar. On each day, I link to the recipe in Paprika, so that all I have to do on that day is open up, go to Monday, and hit the recipe, and it's there for me. And then from that's where I use to build out the rest of my shopping list for the next week, so that I'm going to go do in the morning. So that's how we do it. Now, I know a lot of people will do differently, and we fell into a meal planning thing because it just became too much to every day at 4:00 going, what are we having for dinner tonight? That is the worst. Let me tell you.
We're hearing from 20 different people, like, what are we having for dinner? Oh, did you not get the meal plan?
Yes. Oh my gosh. At one point I was thinking of putting up a menu board in the kitchen so that they would stop asking what's for dinner tonight.
That's actually what we did.
Yeah, literally, I have a pot of sauce and a pan of pasta. What's for dinner? We're having roast beef. Can't you see? Like,
congratulations, you are going to finish this one right here. Here you go.
Exactly. So those are some of the things that I do. Thomas, is anything you wanted to add to what you do in your home?
Yeah, sure. I actually, so the Trello board resounds with me because I do actually use Trello boards with my kids when we have projects that we're working on together, especially when there's something that I need to assign to them to get done. And they're kids. They need visual reminders. So if they ask me, hey, what are we doing? I'm like, did you check your Trello board? And so you can just kind of push them back that way. But we've done it for a couple of different projects that we've had as a group. So it can be really effective. It can be a lot of fun for them too, but especially because Trello is very tactile in the sense that you get to check off a task when you're done with it. And so it actually moves and kind of gives them that sense of succeeding, especially if you make the task small enough so that it's completable and they can really get to it. So highly recommend that one. That one's really good. We're a Google house, so everything Google. We use calendars, we use Excels for budgeting, or Google Sheets for budgeting, and then we do events in there. So we just got into fantasy football this year, so I went and dug deep and figured out all these fantasy football statistics and everything, and so everybody's picked their team, and so over the course of this week, it's going to populate with the scores and all that kind of stuff. So
nice.
That can be kind of fun. So think outside of the box of just organization too. That's the other side that I want to put on this. Is like, this is for fun stuff as well, and you can get organized and you can have your fun be organized, and that's not a bad thing. And it teaches your kids how to use these tools that they're going to get into the workplace to use, and so they'll have a lot of familiarity with them.
Yeah,
when you do this kind of stuff. The big one for us is we have a network attached storage for all of our file sharing. So I've built a home network for us. We've got a server that runs on the home network. And then I have an actual RAID, three hard drives and a RAID sequence that have all of our shared documents on it. So if anything goes bad, I can just buy another hard drive, flop it out for one that's in there, and we're good to go. So that's really, I really cannot stress enough the importance of having a shared drive that is backed up on the cloud or backed up somehow physically in your house, because there are just so many things that you use as a group. And if the machine that file is on goes down, replacing it is just such a pain and slows life down so much and can make so much hassle. So yes, definitely have that.
Yes.
And then the last one I want to mention is not so much a tech that we use for our family, but a tech that I've kind of adopted in this website called Efficiency is Everything. It's this engineer who is a complete nerd about everything in his life. So he has meal planning down to a science. He has time management down to a science. He has workout schedule down to a science. All of this stuff that he has, and he's done all of the like science and engineering and math that goes into it. So highly recommend going to the website. It is a rabbit hole, so just beware when you go. There's a lot there, but he's got like a breakdown of like calories per dollar or nutrition per dollar. So he's got a breakdown of every possible food you can buy in the grocery store, how much it costs, and what the actual like nutritional value of that cost is. So you can reorganize the sheet all sorts of different ways, and he's got all the science there to just share with you. So he just shares the source documentation that he used. Now, to be fair, the grocery prices are a little out of date. but it'll give you a sense of at least what the most value per dollar, the most bang for your buck is with the foods that you buy and stuff like that. So a lot of fun, really interesting kind of way to get more out of all of the things that you do by really just applying the science to it.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at highest calories per dollar. It's just, wow, that is a way of looking at it. Yeah, it is. It validates my decision that a few years ago, last year, that I should start shopping at Costco. That's for sure. Looking at some of this stuff. But yeah, the subtitle is Industrial Engineering Applied to Life. This is very nerdy, very, very nerdy. Very good. Excellent. Jack, how about you? What do you have any tools or techniques that you want to add to that?
I think not no particular tools. Similar to Thomas, we pretty much use everything Google because it's cross-platform. But it's good to get your kids involved with the actual planning. Like, I think if you actually, or your kids and just whoever else is in your house, like, have them be involved with it, because if it's just you sitting down and setting everything out and then saying, this is what we're going to use, you're not going to get the buy-in from them, and it's going to be useless. So make sure everybody is involved with what's going on.
Very good. Yeah. Especially when especially as they get to an age where they're capable of using the tools. When your kids are preteen, teen, they can start using these tools, and, make it a condition of their first phone, say, or their first, okay, I'm giving you this phone or tablet or laptop or whatever to use as a tool, but that means you have to use the tool that the family uses to keep things organized. That's a great point. I agree with that. I want to share some of the things that the folks on our Discord shared. Someone shared this really awesome thing. My wife would never let me get it, but I would definitely want to get it. It's called the DAC board. And I don't know if it's good or not, but it looks awesome. It's basically a giant iPad, right? That you hang on your wall, and it's got, it's customizable. It's got different widgets and stuff, so it changes. It can show like your family calendar and show the weather and that sort of thing. Actually, I have to be honest. My brother owns a company that makes digital signage for inside businesses, like menu boards and stuff. I could totally get one of these from him, so I'm going to do that.
There you go.
Sorry, Melanie.
Set up your CIC.
Man, yeah, I love screens. Can't have enough of them. Someone suggested doing a daily stand-up meeting, which is so for those who aren't familiar, a stand-up is a morning meeting. People at work, usually you first thing in the morning, coffee. It's stand-up so that it doesn't take very long, right? That's the whole idea. So if you're standing around instead of sitting in chairs in a conference room, it's supposed to be 5 or 10 minutes. What's the plan for the day? What do we got on our plates? That sort of thing. Or even like a weekly stand-up meeting. I've heard, in fact, we tried to do a weekly family meeting. That I think we did it 1 week, and that was it. Like, we're just,
Yep.
I have a bunch of ADHD people in my house, so it's a little hard to get that. But I think even just, a few minutes in the morning, what's on today's plate? What are our concerns? Just to keep track of what's going on. Even if you're not in person, like even just over text or something, like say you're the one who goes into work early and the other one, gets up later than you, just a little bit of that. I think that's a great idea. Someone did mention using Trello and Jira to track home improvement projects, both from a company called Atlassian. So, but Jira is, I don't have any experience with it, but my assumption is this is major project tracking software, right?
Yeah.
Like overkill.
I think Jack and I are both like, I would not want to use this in my house because I see it all day.
Yeah, I don't want to have to have a Scrum Master set up sprints for my kid.
Nope.
Someone else mentioned using Google Suite for all the various things. That was good. Here's something I do: Find My and AirTags to find each other and their things. How often my child will come to me and say, "Dad, I can't find my Kindle. Dad, I can't find my phone." I don't even look at my phone. I just say it's in your bed. And they say, I looked at my bed. No, it's in your bed. Then I look on Find My and I do the tracking, and it beeps, beep, beep. And we go to the bedroom and it's in there.
There it is.
It's always in the bed. But nevertheless, I put AirTags on as many things as I can in like backpacks, attach them to devices that are prone to getting lost, that sort of thing. And just being able to, I don't know, I feel I'm of two minds of this. When I was a kid in the vast pre-Stone Age days, my mom would send me off with the Boy Scouts and I'd be gone for a week or a weekend, right? And then I would show back up home again a week later, I like to be able to look at Find My and say, "There's my son is there," or my daughter is there, and there's a little bit of peace of mind. Sometimes it's with my wife, for example. She's like running errands, and I'm like, I don't want to bug her. Like, when are you going to be home? but I can look and see, oh, she's on her way home, or she's not close, or, oh, she's on the other side of the grocery store. On your way, stop at the store. So I'm a little bit of the two minds of, I don't want too much of a leash on everyone, but I also like to be able to have that information. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I think it's good for certain things. When Ollie starts going off to camp, I definitely would be okay with doing that kind of tracking. But I do also see the other side where it can become a little bit big brothery, and I'm less concerned about me or my wife having that level of control over, like, always seeing kids' locations, but more just the normalization of that's going on, where my parents did that growing up, so it's just okay that anybody can do that.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I agree with that. We don't want to normalize that.
When your boss starts saying, "Oh, we need a tracking app to know when you're in the location you say you're supposed to be," it's like, that's definitely not okay.
Time to go to Indeed.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Burnish up that resume. And then someone else mentioned finally that they use Microsoft To Do and OneNote for a lot of the same sorts of things that we've been talking about. So there's lots of different tools. It's really about finding the one that works for you and the people in your family. But I think the important thing is actually say, as you say, find the level of organization that's right for everyone. If you're a hyper organized person, but the other people in your home are not, or if you're hyper technical and they're not, you're going to have to dial it back some. I think peace is better than organization.
Yes.
This is 100% true.
All right. So that's our discussion of organizing your household. And before we move on to our headlines, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Jeff S., Catherine O., Father Brian Z., Dalton H., and Patrick H. Their generous tax-deductible donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we have some headlines, and our first headline asks a question. How do you know when AI is powerful enough to be dangerous? Regulators try to do the math. And this is an AP story that we have off of yahoo.com. And basically, both the federal government, the Biden administration, and the state of California are trying to figure out at what level should we regulate AI and what metric do we use? And they've both kind of settled on calculations per second, or flops, loading something, operating point something. It's an acronym, but they've arbitrarily settled on 100 septillion gigaflops, or septillion flops. I don't know, septaflops. I don't know if that's a term, but California adds the second requirement is that if they spend $100 million on the model, on the AI model, that's also part of the regulation. And so the idea is when they are able to do so many calculations, they're probably getting to the point where they're capable of maybe doing something dangerous. And so we need to regulate at that level. And the article is a little ambiguous because it doesn't mean that they shut them down at that level, that they can't go faster than that. In fact, some of the responses to this sound like that's what people think that they're saying, but they need to be registered with the government. But so what? What does that do? So I don't know. What do you guys think of this? Is it an arbitrary? I mean, it is an arbitrary number. What do you think of trying to regulate based on flops? And is this even something that was worthwhile for that way?
I think this space is moving so quickly and is so new that any sort of regulation on anything is pointless, because it's going to be so easy to make inroads around this and just completely ignore it. Like, they shouldn't even be trying to worry about regulation. They need to let all this settle out before they worry about that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Thomas?
I think it's an interesting one because it bothers me that there's like this arbitrary number of flops that's kind of been approached here. And I've sat with this one a lot today because, I read it earlier and have been kind of trying to figure out what it is that bothers me about this. And this is still based on just raw compute power. And really the answer, I think, for AI, specifically for generative AI, which is where a lot of the real problems are coming in, is that we need to just enforce real rules that already exist about copyright, about ownership, about the ability to claim something as your own and iterate on it. And we need to enforce those rules because they are longstanding rules. They don't rely on a change in technology. And we need to really hold these companies accountable for what it is that their systems are doing when they are learning off of things that they don't own, or that they so nebulously own that they can just claim that, they have rights to it. And I think if we did that, it would slow a whole lot of the problem that we're having down, because you wouldn't have these data sets that are infinitely large to work on, because you no longer, you'd have to legally prove that you have some level of ownership over this thing that you're training your AI on.
Or at least pay a lot of money for it.
Exactly.
Make it so fiscally impossible to buy all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I feel like that's the big problem with technology, is that we keep trying to come up with these new ways to legislate it based on the technology itself. And by the time you've even conceptualized the law, the technology has already moved on 3 steps, and it's already, completely different or completely changed. Whereas there are already really good systems in place that we just need to enforce.
I also feel like we're talking about 2 different things when we talk about AI. There's what we have today, which is large language models, generative AI, which has its own set of issues. And then what a lot of the politicians and the people in these capitals are worried about, the legislators are worried about, is AGI, artificial general intelligence, self-aware, models that can do things, science fiction-y things. They're thinking about that stuff down the road, and we don't even know if that's even ever going to be possible to make it AGI when we've got this more present issue. There are a lot of society impacting issues surrounding what we even have today, never mind what we're worried about tomorrow. And in the article, someone mentions the problem with setting an arbitrary limit for 10 to the 26 or 100 septillion flops is that some of these models are already doing more with fewer calculations below that level. They're doing so much more. It's like it's an arbitrary distinction. So it's almost too hard to get your head around the whole thing. Like, one thing they're afraid of, AI technology that can create or proliferate weapons of mass destruction. Well, that's already a proliferation of weapons of mass destruction has been an issue for the past 80 years. It's just, is, and the making of an atomic bomb is a relatively trivial matter from a technical standpoint. So how have we kept people from building them? We've kept them from access to the tools and the raw materials. So, I don't think, I don't know. I mean, yes, AI could make it easier for people to do, maybe say cyber attacks or that sort of thing, but I don't know. I think it's more the generic impacts on society, like you were talking about, Thomas, the issues surrounding copyright, surrounding deception of, deceptive images and videos and that sort of stuff that really need the attention. This is more flashy.
One of the Green brothers did a really good video about whether or not Google's training their AI on YouTube. So if you go to the Vlog Brothers YouTube channel, you can check it out. And his point was really good. I liked what he was saying, because he was very moderated in his response to it. And essentially what he was saying was that it's obvious that they're dodging the answer to that question. It's obvious that they're using YouTube videos to train their AIs. But and when you look at the statistics, he had some statistics that he was looking at. You see that a lot of what they're training on is educational videos, which is largely what his model is on YouTube. So, it's definitely going to impact him. And his point was, he doesn't even know whether he would say yes or no to allowing them to use the AI. He thinks he would probably say that it was okay. He wouldn't mind it, but he's never been asked. So he's never formulated the answer to the question because he's never been asked if they can train AI on his videos. There's just this tacit assumption that they own his videos because he's posted them on YouTube, and YouTube has this agreement that says if you post on YouTube, we have the right to use the video in promotional things, and but the wording is so nebulous that training an AI definitely fits inside of the scope of what they've said. Yep. So I like that the way he puts it, though, is that the question isn't so much whether or not I would say yes, just I've never been asked.
Whether they should ask. Yeah.
And they definitely should.
And the fact is, when you, as a creator, when you post a video, they make you say whether you've used generative AI in the making of this video. So they want you to fess up to anything that you're doing. It just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't sit right with me. And it related to this is our second headline, which is a little creepy. Research AI model unexpectedly attempts to modify its own code to extend runtime. Although I think there's two parts to this story. The first is the fact that this model, what they were trying to do is get it to run more efficiently. It's called the AI Scientist, and it's supposed to conduct scientific research autonomously. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to that because I do want to talk about that. But it was taking too long and timing out. And so they wanted it to, how can we not time out in the running of this experiment? So it modified its own code to extend the time it was allowed instead of staying within the parameters that the humans set on it. And that rings some alarm bells for some people. Like whenever a computer can modify itself to do things, it's concerning. Just as a bizarre example, Jimmy Ake and I just recorded an episode of Secrets of Doctor Who on the Green Death, and at the heart of it, spoilers for a 50-year-old show, is a computer, an AI, essentially, 1973 version of it, that was created and told that your job is to maximize the profits of the corporation. And it was given no limits. And so it was in the process of taking over the world and enslaving humanity in order to maximize profits for the corporation. And it's like, this is, I think, the sort of thing that's, as proof by this show, long concerned people about AI and computers. And what do you think first, just of this model modifying itself? Is it concerning?
If that's the design of the AI, that's beautiful. I mean, if you've given the AI the ability to be self-reflective, that's awesome. That's what I really want to see AI being able to do. If it was an unintended consequence because you haven't been paying attention to how you're writing the code, there's probably some issues there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is because all of this is so new and it's moving so quickly, is that people are viewing AI as like this big black box, and they're anthropomorphizing it more than it really should be. Because if you actually look at what's going on in the article, it's like, okay, I'm timing out here to fix this error that we're encountering. I'll just extend my runtime. Like, if you look at the actual steps it's going through, it's not as scary as the headline makes it out to be, and it's actually pretty interesting from a programmatic point of view. But it still does raise questions. But I do think that it's very easy when talking about AI to get into like Skynet territory.
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes back to the first headline, which is we're all so afraid of the Skynet problem, including our legislators, that I think so much of how we're reacting to this stuff is based on fears of something that's not actually in front of us.
Well, and the interesting, this kind of comes back to my anti, entrepreneur crazy guys thing, but I've just got to say it, because you'll hear these guys and they talk about how dangerous AI is and how regulation needs to be put in place until the regulation affects their AI. And then it's like, whoa. This is not, well, what if I have the cure for cancer and I just need to put together a little bit longer running, or a little bit more flops on my thing. So it's really interesting to watch those guys and see that they are doing a lot of this fear mongering themselves. And they're trying to make sure that everybody needs to be afraid of those other AIs. My AI is the good guy. And, you just got to worry about that. And I think really, ultimately, what we need to do is just be sane in the laws that we have and kind of stick with what we know and enforce what we know in a way that's reasonable and prevents them from just running rampant.
And don't write laws about theoretical situations because you're scared of those theoretical situations.
Exactly.
That's bad law. Bad law based on theory is, The other part of this story I want to talk about is the AI itself, the AI scientist, and what it's designed to do, as they put it, the people at the University of Oxford and University of British Columbia put it, the AI scientist automates the entire research lifecycle, from generating novel research ideas, writing any necessary code, and executing experiments, to summarizing experimental results, visualizing them, and presenting its findings in a full scientific manuscript. And everybody who works at a scientific journal is heads exploding, because it's like, I have already so much junk, and so they've already started seeing so much junk that's been helped by AI but submitted by humans. Now they're going to have to worry about getting the stuff that entirely done by AI, because the question is can these things, models, even do original research? As one of the people who reviews articles for journals says, a human being, if you automate everything, the human beings gonna have to go through every line of code to check it for errors, which you may as well just do the experiment yourself in the first place then.
Right.
Or what do you guys think of this model itself?
I think this is really the place where I am most anti-AI, is that we're abrogating all our learning ability and our brain power into these machines. And this is an issue just across the board with people using AI to create art for their books, or just writing books with AI, or homework, all those different things. Basically all these things that the point of being, or not the point, but a big part of being human is that we are able to create new things and learn. And if you're just going to give all that ability to a machine, you're not really living.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And the thing that really worries me here too is just what this is essentially when you look something up online and you get one of those websites that's, you have to scroll through to get the answer that you were looking for because there's so much fluff, junk text in it. And it was written by an AI. That no human sat down and wrote this thing, or at least some kind of machine learning piece that just grabbed a bunch of different junk, filled it in with some filler text, and then called it a day, right? I don't want that to be science. That is not good science, because it's not actually advancing science at all. It's not interesting. It's just a mess. And all it really is at the best, it's just an attempt to try and get a smattering of different phrasings of the same idea. But at worst, and what I think is mostly happening here, is just it's a cash grab, right? It's an attempt to try and prove out research that just is not being done, which is very, very disturbing.
I mean, there's already a problem. People will talk about a problem of too much research, in the sense there's too many papers on too many different stupid minor things, because the whole system is research or die. If you're not researching as a scientist, then you don't have any funding, you get pulled, and if you're not producing papers, is really, it's not so much the research, but if you're not producing papers to publish, if you don't publish, then you're not a real scientist, you're not going to get funded, and you're not going to get tenure or whatever, and that's a problem in the system in general. And it seems like this is designed to perpetuate that problem rather than solve it. So all right. So our last headline is from the LA Times, from their Boiling Point column, which is a climate and environment column that they regularly do, and it's it asks the question: is it ethical to have children in the face of climate change? And I will point out the obvious, which is, of course, it is. But it's the climate change reporter here, the who's writing this. Her name's Haley Smith. Is 8.5 months pregnant. Congratulations, Haley. And this is. People ask her, as someone reporting on the climate, how could you possibly bring a child into this world? And, with all the awful... So there's the two elements. The world is getting worse, and how can you subject a child to it? But also, how could you bring in another person to consume carbon, create carbon, and consume resources? How could that be ethical? I have, my thoughts on it. I mean, my primary comment is a climate change reporter being concerned about bringing a child into a climate change world is not unlike a cop worrying about bringing a child into a crime-ridden world. Mm-hmm. You are so immersed in this in the day-to-day that perhaps it seems worse to you than it does to most people. And so that may affect your worldview. What do you guys think of this, though, in general, the idea of, we're all fathers. We've all brought children into this world relatively recently. So what do we've made this decision for ourselves, I suppose. What do you think of this?
I think the world is never as bad as we think it is. And there's always been something, no matter what time you've lived in, there's always something horrible that could happen. You could be eaten by saber-toothed tigers, or the Huns are going to attack, or Russia's going to drop nukes on you. There's always going to be something, and that's, pretty much that.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember that argument being made back in the 80s. Right. We could have a nuclear war at any time. How could you be having children?
Well, and before that, in the 1970s, it was we're going to run out of food, and then before that, it was just post-war. Why are we having so many children after this horrible thing had happened? And so every decade's got this same reason not to have kids. So it's ridiculous, first off, but I think more to the issue really is when you look at some of this stuff, there's a misunderstanding of the statistics, right? And so, there was this thing going around the internet recently about a comparison of the carbon footprint of a hamburger to a flight, to an airplane flight, and is there as much carbon footprint for eating a hamburger as there is to taking an airplane? And it was completely ridiculous. It was all disproved. There was all of this kind of discussion about it online. It was kind of a thing. But a lot of these websites that I went to look at this information, they would show, here's the thing you can do to have the most impact on climate, on the climate. You can live, you can be vegan, you can do this, you can do that. And they were just gradually increasing. And the largest reasonable one, in my opinion, was to live car free. So you get rid of your cars and you bike or walk or use public transit where you need to go. And then they would show, invariably, they would show one more bar to the right of that. And it was have fewer children. And the bar just went off the top of the screen. Yep. And the whole reason for that bar going off the top of the screen was because now you've created another person with a carbon footprint. And it's that's not how this works. No. Right. Just having another person born does not make this whole other carbon footprint that now you're responsible for as well. And it's just propagating this idea that every child we have is making the world worse. And that's just ridiculous.
I would also say that in my experience, I come from a big family. We know a lot of big families. The big families are the ones who are living the most sustainably and who are the best at reusing things and recycling things.
Yes. I've long said, that really green couple, the vegan couple living their, vegan climate change lifestyle is still using more than per capita than the 7 people in my house.
Yep.
Our carbon footprint is much slower than theirs. And there's a philosophical aspect too, which is, do you want to live in fear or do you want to live in hope? Because the most hopeful thing you could possibly do, the biggest gesture of hope is to have a child. That is hope. And the fact is people are like, for a long time, there are people from a particular point of view have made the argument we do not have an overpopulation problem in the world. We have a population dearth. We don't have enough people, and where the other side of the argument is starting to come around to that. You don't hear that the overpopulation argument as much anymore. If you've noticed, a lot of these countries where, like especially China and India, they're starting to slow their growth a lot. And in fact, there's now concerns where a lot of countries are starting to have a lack of replacement births. They don't have enough children being born. And what is that going to do to the world when we don't have enough people to run things and take care of things? We're going to end up using a lot more, if you don't have people to farm, we're going to have to grow things in these places and ship them more. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's not a one-to-one thing. Just the mere birth of another child does not automatically mean worse to the environment. It's not that simple. And I think I would rather have more love, more hope, more babies, and instead of being afraid. And fear is what motivates so much of our world and society today. It's so much about fear.
And I think this attitude, it just comes from the fact that we're so interconnected now, and we think that we have so much effects on all these different things, where at the end of the day, what you actually have an effect on are the people around you and the people who you love and the people who love you. Like, that's what you should be focused on. You shouldn't be worried about every single thing in the world, because you cannot change that. Right. You see so much anxiety in young people, like the Gen Z. There's so much fear, so much anxiety about things that are, that it all exists more than 25 miles from your home. You know what I mean? Like the most important things are the things within 5 miles of where you live. That's the most important things. Stop worrying. Like, it's important to be concerned about the world around you, but you need to be a lot more concerned with what's happening within 5 miles of your home. Right. That's really I think we've lost sight of that. And I think social media has contributed to that, where we think our impact to change things is greater than it really is. If only I make this post on Twitter or X now, it will change everything. No, it won't really. But the people around you, you can change a lot with them.
So I like bringing it back to our activism around here, where we go to a lot of these power movements where you get a bunch of people together to do stuff. And one of the things that they say is that there's often a two boundaries that people think of, where it's the selfishness and the selflessness. And there's actually like a middle point that's really the sweet spot that you want to get to, where it's self-interest. So not that I'm completely selfless, not that I'm completely selfish, but these are the things that matter to me and the things that I can do something about. So I'm going to take care of them.
Right. And these things make me feel good to do, and they do good for others. That's the other part of it too, is that activism. Yeah. Excellent. So those are our headlines, and let's move on to talk about our picks of the week. And Jack, you're up first. What's your pick this week?
My pick of the week are the Soundcore P40i earbuds. I fell into the trap of getting dazzled by the nice, expensive name brand wireless earbuds, and I bought them like 2 years ago. The batteries are already burnt out on them. They were like over $200. They were not comfortable, and so to replace them, I just picked up some of these Soundcore ones. I think I got them for it was like $40 on sale on Amazon. They're comfortable. They do wireless charging. They connect to everything. They even have a built-in stand, like phone stand, in the actual earbud case, which is really nice. And yeah, I think that when you're shopping for wireless earbuds, you need to realize that they're fundamentally disposable. I guess, speaking of environmental issues. But I would at this point, I would say definitely look at some cheaper non-Apple or Google or Samsung brands for earbuds before you go buying them, because you can get something that's really either almost as good or, in my opinion, better for like a fraction of the cost.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how quickly things have changed, where like it feels like everybody has wireless earbuds now. Like a few years ago, everybody had wired earbuds, and then Apple came out with the AirPods, and then suddenly everybody's got wireless earbuds. It's amazing to me how quickly these things switch over. But Soundcore is great. I've done the over-the-ear ones. I've had those as a pick before. All of my kids have those. Their noise canceling is good. We've got kids with ADHD or spectrum issues is really what it is, or misophonia. The noise canceling is vital. So definitely excellent.
Yeah, and these have those. These have the active noise canceling, and they were $40.
Nice. And so they list for $60 on Amazon if you go, but look carefully. There are coupons. The black ones have a $20 coupon, and the white ones have a $10, I think it is. So keep an eye on that checkbox if you go to Amazon. All right, Thomas, what's your pick this week?
So I'm doing some woodworking in the near future, and so I was looking for a good program online to kind of start mapping things out and planning things. And there are a bunch of CAD programs that are out there that are expensive, like really, really expensive. or they're subscription or whatever. So in my resistance to paid services, I went and found one called FreeCAD, and I have absolutely fallen in love with this. I think this is my go-to 3D modeling program now, especially as I'm putting things onto the print bed. Love Blender. Blender is great, but Blender is really more geared toward game engine and like graphic design than it is towards real, actual output. This program is phenomenal because when you build things inside of it in 3D, you have to match it to real world sizes. And so it kind of forces you to bound everything into real world sizes when you put it together. And there is a great series of tutorials that I have on YouTube that I've been following, and the guy just walks you through like every single possible dial and knob inside of the program. It's a little overwhelming, but really any 3D modeling program is going to be that way. But I will say, like, you model something in this program, you know exactly what you're going to get out of the printer, which I have wanted for so long and have wrestled so hard with Blender to get. And this was just sitting there, and I didn't even realize it. So highly recommend if you are a person who's into CAD at all, if you've used Tinkercad online, but you want something that's a little more powerful and a little more engineer oriented, or just to start creating things for your own 3D printing, FreeCAD's the way to go.
Windows, Mac, and Linux free to use. Excellent. That's a really good one. So I have an AI one that I want to offer up. This is called AI Image Scaler, or AI Smart Upscaler. What it does is if you have a low-res photo, say a screen capture of a TV show that you do a podcast about that you want to use for cover art, and you need to take that low-res screen capture because it was in the pre-HD age, and you want to make it sharper, you just drop the image up to 5 megabyte image. You drop it on this web page. It's entirely web-based, and it will upscale it. It'll sharpen it. I mean, it is remarkable. It'll take like an 800 by 600 and double it to 1600 by 800, or even up to, they say, 7680 by 7680, which is very big. It's not perfect. It can't make images appear from mud. Like it does its best with what you get. I have to say, it's best with faces. It really loves to sharpen faces, and it does a remarkable job of it. I have to say, I use it very often on Secrets of Stargate, Secrets of Doctor Who. A lot of these shows where all I have are very old screen caps that are small. This gives me something usable that will look nice. So if you've got old photos that you've scanned, that would be a nice use for it, that sort of thing. And you can drop 500 images at a time. Now it does have a Mac app that you can download as well. And there's free and then paid. So like you can use it for up to so many, and then you have to get a paid account. But it wasn't, I don't see what exactly they charged me for that, the pricing. So you have to look at it. There's like $15 for icons, and you can do 3D models and all kinds of stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of different products that they offer on this one site, but the Smart Upscaler is just one of them. So you get to use several different tools at once with it. See, Smart Upscaler is $9 a month, I think it is, if you want to do it. But if you have like just a bunch of photos that you scanned on a bed scanner years ago that you want to fix, subscribe for a month, run 500 photos through it, and you'll be good. That would be one way to do it. So nice. AI image. There's a lot of these AI, quote unquote AI tools online these days that are out there that just keep popping up that are really quite interesting. And that will do it for us this time. We would love to hear from you, our audience. If you have any thoughts on anything we talked about today, you can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. Join our discussion over on Secrets of Technology channel. You can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC269. That's the show and show number. TEC269. Write a review in Apple Podcasts or any of the podcast directories that allow them, and share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow this community and reach even more listeners. Until next time, Jack Baruzzini, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks, Tom.
And Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.